Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. We got a great show planned for you guys tonight. Going to talk a little college football expansion, of course. That's been hitting the media a lot here lately. We'll talk a little bit of recruiting update for our Clemson Tigers. And then a little bit of what we think the defensive priorities should be heading into spring ball. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick around for tonight. But before we get into the show tonight, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. Really helps us out on these or help us get to our 6,000 subscriber goal. Getting pretty close there. So your help with that will be greatly appreciated. Hit that like button, share this video. The like button really helps us out on these live videos. So while you're in here, it's free. Go ahead and hit that like button for us, and that helps us out a ton. Share the video with all of your college football friends and family. And then last but certainly not least, we got the Super Chat feature available for you guys. And that just kind of supports what me and Jordan do here on the All In Show. As you guys know, at the end of every single show, we turn it over to you guys, the live chat, the comment section, and we let you guys drive the last 30, 45 minutes of every single show. So if you want to ensure that your comment and or question is read and responded to during this live episode, hit that Super Chat feature, support what we do here, and ensure that your question gets answered during the live show. So with all of that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. What's up, Jordan? How you doing tonight?
Good, man. Just enjoying this weather here in Charlotte. Well,
Yeah,
really,
right.
in the Carolinas, it's been snowing. So some of y'all got it better than we did.
Yeah.
Like it really didn't. It's kind of like Clemson's 2025 recruiting class. Like it didn't stick. Like so, I mean, it really it just kind of served as an inconvenience to my day, and less of a I get to go home from work early, because that didn't happen.
That's right. That's right.
But
I like that subtle shot at our Tigers 2025 recruiting class there.
Yeah,
that was a good one. It was built up. It was looking real nice. The meteorologist was there, and the map was pink and everything was looking good, and just up and disappeared on us. So
yes,
it stuck a little bit more where I'm at, a little further east than you. So we got quite a bit of ice initially earlier in the day, and then turned into snow this evening. So I'm pretty sure, unless it's changed in the last 10 minutes, it's still, everything's still covered in white outside. So it's really weird though. Like, I don't know what's up with all this weather in the South, all this snow, this year. It's strange to me. This is what,
it's really just been
the third time that we've gotten snow this year.
Yeah. I mean,
that's crazy.
And it's the timing too, because like it just, there's like no build up to, like last week we were getting temperatures in the mid 50s, 60s. There it was 70s.
Yeah, we were in the 70s a couple days.
Yeah.
And then back down to the the 30s, high 20s, snowing, ice, brining the roads again.
Yeah.
It's a wild time to be in the South this winter. It certainly looked a little bit closer to a north winter than it has a southern winter down here. So I moved here to get away from the snow. So I would not that I mind it. It's much better here than it was where I was before. So I won't complain too much.
Yeah, good point. But
plus things get shut down here. Where I was, nothing got shut down regardless. It didn't matter.
Yeah, it's not a thing over there. Y'all don't get snow. Right. You didn't get snow days up there.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, man. Like other than that, I've been enjoying Clemson athletics in general. The baseball team is off and running. You had a good solid 2-1 weekend. The one loss wasn't pretty. They got to figure out who their Sunday starter is going to be. I hate that.
Sure.
The freshman that they were really, really high on, tore his UCL. He's going to have to go.
Decided to have surgery. So
get surgery. Yeah.
He's
So
done
that's
for the year.
Yeah, Dane Moeller, or I don't know how to pronounce his last name. So that sucks, but I still think this team is going to be really good. We'll see what they can do. I think they have they were supposed to have Presbyterian, I think, this week, but weather,
yeah.
And then I believe we play VCU in Richmond this weekend.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. Get to just see those guys out there some more. Maybe they'll finally hit a home run. We didn't hit a home run in those 3 games.
No long balls, man. Something we saw a lot from that Clemson baseball team last year, but no long balls yet. So no, Red Sox. I was not born a Yankee. Absolutely not. I grew up in South Carolina, born and raised in South Carolina, but the military took me all over the world. So one of the places it took me was to the north, basically Canada. So lots of snow. I saw a lot of snow. I didn't like it. Had to get out of there. So back down to the south for me.
Exactly. And then the basketball team continues to roll. That was fun. They got a nice win over Florida State over the weekend. They're rolling right now. Defensively, they've been really, really good lately.
Locked in, man.
They're locked in because they got locked in.
Yeah, that's right. I like it. Hey, you're on a roll tonight. Look at you.
No, I'm honestly a little sleepy, so maybe my brain is just running a little bit differently.
It's just letting it fly. You're not even thinking about it. I like it.
But yeah, so it's been a good week, and we got a lot to talk about tonight, though. So don't want to keep the people waiting any longer.
That's right. Hope you guys are all safe and sound with the weather wherever you guys are. But it is time to get into the show. Before we do that, though, quick shout out for our most loyal comment section. Jackson Johnson in here first. One of our great moderators who always plugs all of the Voice of College Football stuff that we need in there. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but as you guys know, Mark Rogers has a book release. Go check it out on Amazon called Disputed National Champions. Also, while you're buying that on Amazon, make sure you use that Amazon link. Gives the channel a little bit of a kickback and doesn't cost you any extra. So appreciate that. And then, as always, follow our boy Jordan on X as well. So thank you so much, Jackson Johnson, for getting in here, plugging all that stuff for us as you always do. John Sarian's in here. Thank you for being in here, buddy. Isaac Smith, Kevin, Intelligent Savage. Tiggs is in here. Wet Socks in here, accusing me of being a Yankee. That's messed up. I don't know what's up with that. What did I do to deserve? No, I'm just kidding.
I would. You don't even look like you just know. There's no way that you would even fit in that kind of. I would never peg you for a Yankee. If I didn't know you,
No, definitely not. Not even close. Born and raised in South Carolina, so we're all good there. All right. Well, with all of that, we got 21 people in the live chat right now. Thank you guys so much for showing up. Appreciate you. Go ahead and hit that like button while you're in here and help support the channel in that way. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and dive into our first topic of the night. And Jordan, I'm sure you and all of our audience by now has been read up, if you will, on the news. If you haven't, Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports dropped a bombshell of an article, if you will, that kind of outlined what college football will be for the future, or at least who is controlling college football, more specifically the playoff come 2026 and beyond, when it comes to making the decisions and all of that stuff. So Ross Dellinger comes out with the article. You guys can go over on Yahoo Sports and read it if you have not already. I'm sure a lot of you have already gone out there and looked at it. So we're not going to hit every single thing that he covered in his article, but just kind of a brief synopsis of what the article said and kind of give our thoughts on how it affects college football, how it affects Clemson, how it affects the ACC, and where we go moving forward from this point on. So obviously, there has been a memorandum of understanding signed by the 10 FBS conference commissioners, as well as the Notre Dame athletic director. Every time I have to say that, it irritates me a little bit. But I digress. We won't get sidetracked with that. They basically signed a memorandum of understanding seceding all power and all decision making to the SEC and the Big Ten going forward from 2026 on when it comes to the format and the structure of the college football playoff. So essentially, the Big Ten and the SEC moving forward after this next season will make all decisions based on the structure of the college football playoff. And they've already kind of started floating a couple of ideas out there, a 14-team playoff with 2 byes, a 16-team playoffs that wouldn't have any byes in it. Obviously, as everybody's heard, there would be 4 auto bids for both the SEC and 4 auto bids for the Big Ten, 2 auto bids for the ACC, 2 auto bids for the Big 12, 1 for the highest ranked Group of 5 champion. And then if it's a 14-team playoff, there would be 1 at-large bid, obviously for Notre Dame if they are ranked inside the top 14, or 3 at-large bids if they go to a 16-team playoff, in which state there would be no byes for anybody. Everybody would play in the first round of the college football playoffs in a 16-team playoff. So that's kind of the premise of it. They're also working on a scheduling arrangement between the SEC and the Big Ten for some of their biggest brands to start playing on a more consistent basis. Obviously, ESPN has their hand in this. The conference commissioners obviously signed the memorandum of understanding. So, Jordan, your initial thoughts on all of this as you read the article, as the news came out, are you surprised? And what does it mean for the ACC? What does it mean for the Clemson Tigers moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I was surprised reading that article. I mean, really, this is something that all of this has been happening or been hinted at or suggested through multiple points over the last couple of years. And, as we were building to this 12-team playoff, that the SEC and the Big Ten really wanted to take control of how this structure was going to be, or how the format was going to be structured. And so, I mean, no, it didn't really surprise me all that much. And, I hate it for a lot of reasons. But, ultimately, like for the ACC and Clemson, it's another step that this sport is taking to kind of push and elevate, the top 2 conferences and push down everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the long and short.
The SEC and the Big Ten weren't already on a big enough pedestal.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, you already have the PR going for you, the national perception. You already have the TV numbers, the revenue, everything you could possibly want. But now you're going to further manipulate the integrity of our already dubious playoff structure and the way we select a national champion. And so it consolidates more power to those 2 conferences. And for Clemson, and other programs, especially the top brands within the conference, Florida State's and Miami's, like it makes the rat race that much more difficult for you. There's going if they succeed and they get those, especially if they get those automatic bids. And they also talked about reseeding, not reseeding, but the seeding of the playoff being strictly aligned with the committee's rankings, and not the top 4 conference champions get a bye, and the top 4 seeds, and then you go through the at-larges, and then all of that. Like, they just, if you're the number 1 in the rankings, you're number 1. If you're number 8 in the rankings, doesn't matter if you're a conference champion or not, you're number 8, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when you put all of that together, and the fact that the committee is obviously going to have more SEC and Big Ten teams ranked. It just kind of the natural order of things currently. That like I said, it consolidates more power into the SEC, Big Ten. More schools get that, more of Clemson and other schools competition, like the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, like they're going to get more money as well. And so it's a very compounding effect when you account for all the incentives, the performance incentives and stuff that you get from making the playoff and the extra payout and and the amount of money that every conference makes, according to how many teams they put in the playoff. Like when you consider all of that, it's a more consolidation of power into those top two conferences and further unbalances an already an unbalanced sport. So,
yeah,
and that's how it affects Clemson.
Yeah, look, there are some good things in there that they talked about. You mentioned the seeding. I completely agree with teams should be seeded where they are, regardless of whether they win their conference championship or not. I have no problem with that. You earn that ranking throughout the year based off the games that you won or the games that you lost, right? So I have no issue with if you're the AC, if you're ranked 8th and you're a conference champion, you stay at 8. I don't really like how it worked this year where it kind of really messed up the seeding if you looked at the 12-team playoff. Obviously, outside of the seeding issues, I think the first iteration of the 12-team playoff was great. I don't think there were a ton of issues with it. I know a lot of people had issue with, certain teams making it that quote unquote didn't deserve it. But at the end of the day, Indiana and SMU earned their way to the playoffs. And I know a lot of people, including some of the national type medias, had a lot to say about it. But at the end of the day, I think they earned their way to the playoff. They deserve to be in. And an Alabama team did not deserve to be in because they lost too many games. They were in control of their destiny and they didn't get the job done. So, with that said, talking about the restructuring of the playoff and a little bit more about the memorandum of understanding that was signed by all 11 parties. So the 10 conference commissioners of all the FBS conferences, plus the Notre Dame athletic director, basically giving all the power to the SEC and the Big Ten going forward. Do I think that is a good thing? Absolutely not. And I know what a lot of people are going to say. Obviously, we're Clemson fans, and obviously Clemson's in the ACC. So this puts us at an extreme disadvantage, as if we weren't already at a disadvantage, right? But it does widen the gap, right? It gives far more power than they already had to the top two conferences in college football, which right now are the SEC and the Big Ten. But is that the only reason that I think this is not a good thing? No. If Clemson was in one of these two power conferences, the SEC or the Big Ten, I still wouldn't think it was a good thing. I don't think two conferences, albeit the best two conferences in college football, I think we can all agree on that. They are the two best conferences in college football. I still don't think it's good that they have all the power. And yes, the memorandum of understanding has language in it that they have to consult with the other conferences, right? Meaningful consideration and input from the other conferences. What does that mean? Basically nothing. Yeah. That basically means nothing. Why they put that in the memorandum of understanding, I have no idea because it doesn't mean anything. The SEC and
it's
the
lip service, man. To say that they have something. It's like, hey, right. See, we are thinking about you guys too.
We will take your input. We will have, we will give meaningful consideration to your conferences. I guess that's why they threw us 2 auto bids instead of just one. Maybe that was the meaningful consideration talked about in the memorandum of understanding. But the big issue that I have with it is it's never good for that much power to be consolidated with just those two conferences. Yes, I understand that they are the best two conferences in college football, but for the health of the sport, for the sustainability of college football as a whole, they're not going to be acting for the sustainability of college football as a whole. They are going to be acting in the best interest of their two conferences, which is why they're getting 4 auto bids, which is why they're doing the scheduling agreement to make more money for their conferences, to pit their biggest brands up against each other. And you're kind of just further pushed down the line of a second-rate conference. And I know a lot of people out there will be like, well, why in the world did all these conferences agree to this? Well, because essentially the SEC and the Big Ten walked in the room and they were like, hey, agree to this or we're just going to go do this on our own and leave you out of it. So you either agree to all of our demands and we'll include you in our plans, or we'll let you come along like we're some little brother just tagging along with the older brother, right? To the movies or whatever. We'll let you tag along, or you can not give us this power and we'll just go do it by ourselves, just us two conferences. That was essentially the bargaining that went on in there. And of course, all the conference commissioners concede. They signed the memorandum of understanding, and now here we are. The SEC and the Big Ten control college football from now going forward, at least as far as the format of the college football playoff, the seeding, the automatic bids, all that stuff will all be decided by those conferences, which, by the way, met in, I think, New Orleans today. The Big Ten athletic directors and the SEC athletic directors met in New Orleans today. And I'm sure there'll be news coming out about what they agreed upon. And then when February 25th, when there's another big meeting about the college football playoff, the committee, I'm sure there will be proposals from the meeting that happened today between the SEC and the Big Ten about the college football playoff format moving forward. So that's where we're at. I hate it.
Me too. And you touched on a little bit, it kind of hinted at, the SEC and the Big Ten, there have been talks as well of them having a scheduling agreement. There's a long been, push within the SEC circles to move to a 9-game conference schedule.
Yep.
And so if you couple that with a Big Ten scheduling agreement out of conference, that affects Clemson and the ACC as well, because what happens to those rivalry games, what happens to any other, just non-conference game that you schedule against the SEC or the Big Ten. In Clemson's case, could you see South Carolina drop you as an out-of-conference rival if they go to 9 games and then they have a Big Ten scheduling agreement? South Carolina, I mean, to be quite frank, they lose all incentive to schedule you because, they're already playing 10 at minimum Power 5 conference or Power Conference schools, Power 2 conference schools, if you want to call it that. Right. And then, why would I want to schedule Clemson, who's obviously really, a really, really good team to play out of conference, and, risk another loss in an already pretty difficult scheduling, setup. So and it's going to be the same logic for teams like Kentucky and in Georgia.
Kentucky, Louisville, Georgia Tech, Florida State.
Florida State. This is like the way we're heading, it's going to crumble a lot of what we traditionally love about college football. And that's what's scary. Like that, when I saw this from a South Carolina fan today that mentioned that. And, I was like, what? That's something I didn't even think about, because if they do go to 9 games and they have this scheduling agreement,
right.
I was like, I don't even
they play nine SEC games, plus they're going to have at least one crossover, big time crossover game with the Big Ten. That's 10 games. The other 2 games they're going to want to schedule, the quote unquote cupcake games.
Unless you expand the regular season, like that would be the only solution. And that's logistically.
Yeah. I mean, how do we expand the regular season at this point? Look how long it took to crown a national champion this season.
Exactly.
It almost felt like the college football season, it almost felt like there was less buzz around the national championship because of how late the national championship was played. You expand the regular season, now it's going even later. So, how do you do that? not that the national championship game this year was bad, but at the end of the day, I mean, you can give your opinion, but like I don't feel like there was the same buzz as in years past around the national championship. And why shouldn't
No,
there? There were two huge brands playing, Ohio State
exactly.
and Notre Dame. It should have been, there should have been crazy buildup to that national championship, and it just didn't feel like it was there. It kind of felt like people had already moved on from college football.
And the viewership numbers
Before the
back that
game.
up. It was not a very particularly highly viewed national championship game especially when you consider the two brands that were playing. Those are two national fan bases and two national brands. Like the casual sports observer that is like, it's the college football national championship game. I know of Ohio State. I know of Notre Dame. That should be good. Turn it on. Like that should equal like tons and tons of numbers. Now, I don't think viewership numbers have properly and Nielsen ratings and all that. I think they're only just now kind of figuring out how to incorporate streaming numbers. So, that probably had to, something to do with it. But the fact of the matter is that there's not as many, there were not, as many eyeballs on that national championship game as one would expect considering the two brands. And so like we say all that to say that like, if you were to expand the regular season, again, we're already talking about expanding the playoff one more time. Like you put all those things together, it just the health of the sport just doesn't feel like is being taken into account here.
And how well are the players going to hold up? You're talking about reducing rosters to 105 while also talking about expanding the number of games that they're playing. In what world does that make sense? Most college teams right now carry, 100, 100 and 120, 130 players with all of your walk-ons and your practice players and stuff like that. And all those walk-ons and practice players, they help run your scout team to keep your scholarship players fresh, right? They're not running those. So you're reducing the size of the rosters, essentially, expanding the number of games, and somehow this is all just going to work itself out. I just don't think that that's going to be the case. And Isaac Smith brings up an interesting point, and it's actually a point that Uncle Lou, he did a couple videos, obviously, on this topic, and thought he had some really good points that he made. And one of the points was, who's to say that going forward the SEC and the Big Ten are going to just continue to be the cream of the crop when it comes to college football.
Right.
If you look at the history of college football, it's never, always been a conference that dominated, right? It's kind of cyclic. It moves, right? It changes. So just the shifting of the decision-making power to just two conferences, it just doesn't sit right with me. I don't think it makes any sense whatsoever as far as the health of the sport, the longevity of the sport. But what's done is done. The memorandum of understanding is signed, and they will be the decision makers going forward. So there's nothing we can really do about that. It will expand again. They'll go to either 14 teams or they'll go to 16 teams. Again, that's a whole new can of worms, right? So you go to 14 teams, 2 teams get a bye. You go to 16 teams, no teams get a bye. But you double the amount of games that you're playing in the first round. It's a lot of games, and already really jacked up college football schedule that we have. I mean, really, I think that's what and then there's really no governing body that can do this at this point, which is why, I feel like we need something in college. We need a decision maker in college football, not the SEC and the Big Ten, but, maybe it's a college, maybe it's a commissioner or a board or something that are decision makers for the overall sport, not individual conferences that can kind of clean up the schedule for college football, right? The recruiting schedule, the transfer portal schedule, the playoffs, all this stuff. Like our calendar in college football, you look at it, it doesn't make sense anymore. And they just keep packing more and more stuff in, and somehow it's just supposed to work itself out. I really don't I really don't know where it's going to go. Obviously, it's going to expand either to 14 or 16 teams. So that's where we're at. I'm not really happy about it. 9 SEC games. Maybe that's cool. Maybe that's a plus, I guess. But again, you start thinking about the rivalries, the head-to-head rivalries between the ACC teams and the SEC teams, the in-state rivalries. Will those go away? And if they do, I mean, at what point is it still the college football that we all grew to know and love, right? When we were young, going to college football games and falling in love with the sport that we now follow and that me and you now talk about on YouTube, at what point are we just at what point have we tore away too much of the tradition and the pageantry and the things that make college football special? The rivalries are what make college football special. The environments on game day, the tailgating, the stadiums, the fierce trash talk between fans, right? Those kind of things are what make college football special. And I feel like the more we're getting into this, the less and less it's starting to look like the college football that we all grew up watching. And maybe some people don't care about that. Maybe some people think this is a better product. Personally, I don't. But unfortunately, the can of worms is open, and we're not going back. So I guess make the best of what we have now, and hopefully we don't tear everything away from college football that makes it not the NFL.
One can only hope. One can only hope.
All right, guys, we'll leave that topic there. Thank you guys so much for being in here. We got 36 people in the live chat right now. Be sure to hit that like button while you're in here. Consider subscribing if you have not already subscribed. And we appreciate that. The Voice of College Football has a new channel and a new show. It's called On the Move. It's every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Go check it out. On the Move. They cover all your recruiting news, all your transfer portal news, any sort of moves happening in college football. They're talking about it. On the Move every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mark Rogers will be over there giving you all of your updates. I encourage you guys to go check it out. Also, as mentioned at the top of the show, Mark Rogers has released a book. Let me pull it up here for you guys so you have it. Right here on Amazon, The Disputed National Champions, College Football's Historical 1990s Reset, written by our very own Mark Rogers. Head on over to Amazon. They got paperback for $9.99. You can get it if you have a Kindle. You can get it on the Kindle app for 99 cents. Be sure to go leave a review. It's a quick read. It's an easy read. But if the history of college football is something that you're interested in, I encourage you guys to go check this book out. It dives deep into the chaotic world of college football championship decisions during the 1990s. This pivotal decade reshaped the sport in unprecedented ways, leaving fans and experts alike questioning the system and legitimacy of the crown champions. So if you want to know some of where all of this stuff started, restructuring of college football and kind of the BCS and the 14 playoff and before all that stuff happened, go check out this book. I guarantee you won't regret it. It's a great read. I have it. I read it. So go check it out, guys. Let them know that the Clemson channel sent you, and be sure to leave a review as well. All right, Jordan. A lot has changed for the Clemson Tigers since the clocks hit zero against Texas on the the inaugural 12-team playoff. When the clocks hit zero and Clemson walked off that field, unfortunate with a loss in the first round of the playoffs. Clemson has been busy as a program. A lot has changed. Obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is the firing of Wes Goodwin, the hiring of Tom Allen away from Penn State as our new defensive coordinator, a couple guys getting promoted from within to expanded roles within the building. Taj Boyd comes to mind. Ben Boulware comes to mind, just to name a few. Bringing on several analysts, an offensive analyst that we talked about in last week's show, a defensive analyst that we talked about in last week's show. A ton of changes have happened, not only to the coaching staff, but to the roster. Obviously, Dabo Swinney, after years and years of Dabo will never dabble in the transfer portal. He goes out, he gets Will Helt from Purdue, big-time defensive end, which Clemson definitely needs. He gets Jeremiah Alexander from Alabama, both on the defensive side of the ball. And I think if you look back at last season and you could point to one of the weakest point of this Clemson Tiger team last season, it would have been the run defense, right? It's no secret that the Achilles heel for this defense last year was the run defense. We let up far too many explosive runs. We couldn't set the edge at the defensive end position opposite TJ Parker. I want to leave him out of that. We couldn't set the edge. We couldn't stay disciplined in our run gaps. So, Jordan, with the addition of the transfers, with the addition of the coaches, with all the changes, will run defense be a problem for Clemson in 2025? How do we fix the run defense heading into spring?
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple but complex, problem. When you look at how Clemson defended the run last year, I think one of the things that people kind of, lazily, pointed out, it was true, but it didn't tell the whole story. Oh, we have a problem at defensive end. We did have a problem at defensive end. So I do want to say that, like, that was legitimately a weakness for you, especially in the run game, outside of TJ Parker. And especially when you had to move Peter Woods, when you moved Peter Woods back inside, you did not get good play, opposite of TJ. And so, but I think it was a more complex issue than that. I think this defense in general just flat out could not move laterally. And that was something that was very, very evident from the first game of the season against Georgia. This team as a whole, especially in the front seven, has a lot of problems when teams run around them. Clemson's defense is full of players that can play downhill. They can lay hits. They can play downhill with a lot of speed and a lot of aggression. But when you ask these same players to, scrape and slant, like to defend, stretch zone and wide zone and whatever you want to call it, that was a massive, massive problem for this team. And it was not just the linebackers and the defensive line. It was your defensive backs, especially in the outside run game. They're running at the defensive backs. And I thought they struggled as well. I didn't think you defended the run well at nickel. I think your corners, you have good corners, good coverage corners, but they're not going to, they're not great, playing downhill and playing the run. Like, that's something that they really struggled with. So when it comes to this defense, I think you had some, a personnel problem. And I think you also had guys that were unsure of themselves and unsure of what they were doing. There was a lot of hesitancy at linebacker, especially when it came to being gap sound and knowing when to trigger, when to scrape, when to fire and fill their gap. Like, there was just a lot of issues there. So I think it's defending the run is a total team effort, and I think you had a bunch of individuals just kind of flat out, guessing at what they were doing. And that was one of the most frustrating things watching this defense, especially when I had the benefit of hindsight and watching all these games back and seeing what they did and didn't do well. So, while you did have a defensive end problem, I mean, Cade Denhoff and Jaheim Lawson both were in the 50s in terms of PFF grade at run defense. Just not. If you're not familiar with Pro Football Focus, 60 is the bare minimum of competence at a power competence from a starter player. So if you're in the 50s, you're not playing. That's not good. It's just not good. But it wasn't just
not getting very many reps if that's your PFF grade.
Right. So, I say all that to say, but it wasn't just them. You had a lot of problems at linebacker when it came to defending the run. Barrett Carter did not grade out well against the run. Wade Woodaz did not grade super well against the run. Your defensive backs did not grade well against the run, and they were poor at tackling. And that was another issue, the missed tackles. So
open field tackles.
What this defense and what Tom Allen has to, is tasked to do this year is he's got to get everybody on the same page, because defending the run is a team effort, and it takes everybody knowing what their assignment is and what their teammates' assignments are. And it just felt like you didn't have that this year. You have guys that are more downhill players, but it's not like you don't have athletes that can run sideline to sideline. Some of it is just guys playing unsure, so they're slow even when they're not slow.
Right.
And so this defense is going to take a full effort, because I think they should not have been as bad as they were last year. And so I definitely think there will be improvement, but how much is the question? And so when you consider a guy like Will Helt, who came in from Purdue, who graded out, I believe he had a 75 PFF grade against the run, which is considerably better than anybody else on the team other than anybody else in the edge position other than TJ Parker, who I believe graded out, he had an 80.1. So, that helps. And you bring in Jeremiah Alexander to add depth to the linebacker room, and potentially, we'll see kind of how he works into the rotation. But he hasn't played much. So, Tom Allen and just the rest of this defensive staff, they're going to have to get these guys. I mean, they were obviously not up to standard this past year. So it's not a secret what they need to do or what they need to improve on. But it really is going to take a full effort, because you had so many guys that just flat out were not playing together from that standpoint. And even the defensive tackles, you have really big defensive tackles that can't necessarily always, slant and play that, those stretch run plays that gassed you so many times this past year, whether it was Georgia or Louisville or Texas or any other teams, anything in between. You don't have guys that were able to do that.
The Citadel.
Yeah, even the Citadel. So this is the number one priority, I think, for Clemson. I think if this team is going to be the type of team I think they can be, this has to be priority number one. More than running back, or like who's going to start at running back, more than who's going to play, boundary or field safety. It's the run defense. Plain and simple. If they need to figure out what they want to be, how they want to stop the run. And that's one thing that Tom Allen, throughout his tenure at multiple stops, that's something that he did very, very well. That he is a very much a stop the run at all costs type of guy, kind of like Brent Venables was. So I think you've got the right guy to accomplish that, but it's you still have to be able to put it in practice and not just
at the end of the day, the guy's got to go out there and execute, right? But to your point, Clemson, I think 1,000% made the right hire in Tom Allen. Look at his track record from being a head coach to being a defensive coordinator at Penn State, and even before that, all of his time in high school and stuff like that as well. As you mentioned, he is a stop the run at all costs type of guy. That is his defensive style first and foremost. So I think from a schematic standpoint, Clemson will be much improved in that department. Now you talk about the players and having to go out and execute. Part of that is, and you kind of touched on it when you were talking about, part of it is knowing your assignments and truly understanding what your assignments are and what you're doing on the field. That way you're not constantly having to think about things or second guess yourself, because it doesn't matter how fast you are. If you're out there second guessing yourself or unsure of your assignment on a particular play, you're going to play, as you said, slow, right? So you don't have that lateral quickness, and guys are getting outside and they're gashing you for yards, and that's how it turns into stuff like that. So Tom Allen and the defensive coaching staff's ability to convey the run-stopping schemes to the players is going to be a big key this spring. I think learning that new defense, getting comfortable with that will be step one in trying to improve this defense. And then once you learn that, just starting to really study the film and know the scheme and know your assignment on individual plays. Eye discipline, right? That way that you can play fast when the game comes. You don't have to think about it. You already know where you're going, and you already know your assignments. That way you can play downhill, you can play side to side, you can move fast, and you can start doing the little things right. A lot of it in football, especially in the trenches, it's the little things, right? It's the hand fighting, it's the moves, it's leverage. It's always the small things that either give you the ability to make that play or is the reason that you didn't make that play, right? Because you took the wrong angle or you had bad leverage or your eyes where they were supposed to be, right? So run defense has to be Clemson's biggest emphasis on defense heading into spring. And I'm sure it will with a guy like Tom Allen, got no doubts about that. But when you think about the identity of a Clemson team under Dabo Swinney's tenure, it has been, yes, a very stout defense, but a run-stopping defense. Clemson has always been very good at stopping the run. And last year, we were probably as bad as it gets at stopping the run. When no disrespect to the Citadel, but when they're putting up almost 300 yards rushing against you, you have big issues. And it's probably everything under the sun, from the execution to the schematics and everything in between, right? So definitely going to be a huge point of emphasis for the Tigers heading into spring. Hopefully we can start to hear some positive things coming out of spring practice when that gets fired up, and then see what it looks like on the spring game. But I certainly like the moves that they have made from a personnel standpoint and from a coaching standpoint. And that's why I have some confidence that the run defense in 2025, will look much different than the run defense did in 2024. At least I hope so, because if this Clemson team is going to the places and the heights that we think they have the potential to go based off of all the returning talent and all the returning snaps, they got to get that cleaned up in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't be in a playoff situation and have a team identify, okay, we're going to run at this guy all game because we know he can't. He's too small to stop the run. Right. Stop the run. He's not, and they don't have much depth behind him. Like that was that's exactly what Texas did. Okay. Oh, see, little 245-pound Jaheim Lawson out there, trying to set
run
the
right
edge.
at him. Run right at him. Yeah. Where's TJ Parker? Oh, he's on the left side. Hey, we're running to the right.
Yep.
Like that was it.
That was the game plan, and they knew they could work. That they could work Clemson's interior laterally, and they wouldn't be able to. Not nearly as effective. Louisville, they didn't do as much of. They knew that their offensive line just couldn't win those matchups up front. Texas could, and so Louisville did a lot of other ways to slow down really, really powerful defensive tackles, cut blocking, all that. And so, but the philosophy still applies. And so they were able to get outside because you couldn't work laterally. And that takes everybody. Like it's not like, a inside zone where, all it takes is one guy to win his matchup and you can blow up, that play can be blown up. Like, it takes everybody because they're running around you. And so it takes the linebackers, it takes your corners, your nickel, your safeties in a lot of cases to all have an understanding of their run fits. And so that was it was just so frustrating time and time again watching, those basic football fundamentals not being executed. And that's where we've seen the biggest slip. And I guess to summarize, this was not a very fundamentally sound defense last year. They just weren't. They had really great athletes, really, freak, talent, they have some dudes, but they did not play well together. They did not play very fundamentally sound. They did not tackle well in a lot of games, and they did not flow to the ball the way they should. And they didn't. And a lot of times it was just effort sometimes or want to. This defense was soft in a lot of ways. So, bringing back the mentality that this defense, what a Clemson defense should have, is also another big component, because some of it is just you can do everything right, but if you're only doing it, if you're half-assing it, you're still going to miss a tackle. You're still going to miss your assignment. There has to be a mentality there, and they did not have that edge that previous Clemson defenses had. So bringing that back as well, because it's a run defense is a want-to thing, very much so, just as much as it is a fundamental schematic thing.
It's definitely an effort thing. Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, guys, we got 33 people in the live chat right now. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hit that like button if you have not already. Subscribe if you have not already subscribed. It is free. We do this show, the All In Show, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. year-round. We don't believe in an off-season here. We talk college football year-round, so hope you guys will stick around with us for that. I want to draw your guys' attention to the official Voice of College Football X page. I'm going to share it up here on the screen so you guys can see it. The official Voice of College Football X page is our official account for the best discussion, debate, and analysis with no off-season. This is where Mark will post reminders about shows throughout all the network, all the different team channels, our channel as well, college football news, all those kind of updates. So if that you're interested in, head on over to X, hit the follow button, and check it out. Also, check out Jordan's X page. It's right there. So I'm going to stop sharing that. And there is his handle right there on the screen. You guys see it. So go check him out. Give him a follow as well. All right, Jordan, last topic we're going to cover tonight. We're going to talk a little bit of Clemson recruiting updates. Obviously, it is no secret that the 2025 recruiting class was somewhat of it was a disappointment as far as Clemson goes. Obviously had a lot of decommits, which makes this 2026 recruiting class very important for the Clemson Tigers. This is going to be a pivotal class for Dabo, for Clemson as a whole. Obviously coming off your worst recruiting class in well over a decade. So this 2026 class is going to be important for that reason, but it's also going to be important because at the end of 2025, you're going to lose a lot of experience off of this Clemson Tiger team. The reason that we are so excited about the upcoming season is because of all the veteran talent and leadership that we have on this team, but that means they're going to be exiting come the end of the season. So we need to replenish them with recruits. So what do you have for us for the updates for our 2026 class? Obviously, we got the March 8th Elite Junior Day recruiting event coming up. So got any updates for us on visits or ways that guys are trending or any new offers that have been put out there? You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we talked a little bit last week about the offensive line recruiting board. One of Clemson's top targets on the board, Ekene Ogboko, shout out to South Garner, North Carolina, number 2 player in the state of North Carolina. He confirmed that he will be taking an official visit to Clemson. I believe his other visits are Georgia. I had it up. Georgia on the 7th, Alabama on the 13th, and Notre Dame on the 20th. That's one that I think he's a guy that I think has a lot of a really high ceiling in terms of what he could potentially be. I think he has a lot of positional versatility. He's listed at 6'6", 280. So he's got, but I don't think he's done, filling out his frame. So I could see him playing tackle or having some ability to play inside. Matt Luke likes guys that, Clemson in general likes guys that can play multiple positions. Think of a guy like Elijah Thurman, like, Ekene Ogboko reminds me of that, but with, even better athletic profile in terms of foot speed and frame and length. So really like him. He is obviously the schools I named, Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame. This is going to be recruitment that's going to be tough for Clemson to win. Alabama has garnered a lot of interest within the last few weeks. He's taken a couple of visits there, but him picking Clemson as one of his official visits, that's a big deal. So, I think anytime you can get these guys on campus, that is massive. He has not, still hasn't, as of yet, confirmed that he will be at the March 8th elite retreat. So we will see if he makes that. I think that could be informative in terms of how much he's actually considering Clemson, because that's always a really good indicator. And the way Clemson does their recruiting, they're like, well, if you make the effort to come here, it says it's very informative with Clemson recruits when guys are coming to these visits, and not just the official visit, but the elite retreat or junior day that was supposed to be in January. So, we'll see kind of how that plays out, but he's really, really high on Clemson's board. And so I'd really like to see if he can make it in next month. But either way, he's locked in his official visit for May 30th. So big deal. And we'll kind of see how that unfolds. I'm sure you guys have also seen the crystal balls that have come in for Maxwell Riley and Adam Guthrie. Clemson is still, continuing the trend in those recruitments. We'll see. I think Maxwell Riley will probably decide before Adam Guthrie. I think, we'll probably know more. But Clemson is in very good shape with those guys. And so I'm really pleased with what Matt Luke has done on the trail so far. And, he's continuing to work other prospects. They're looking to bring in about 5 or 6 in this class. And, it reflects in the offers in the list of guys that are scheduled to come to the elite retreat. That is pretty informative. So Matt Luke is out there doing work. Well, he was out there doing work. He's not, obviously we're in a dead period right now.
He's not violating the dead period.
No, he's not violating the dead period. No. So wanted to, kind of throw those guys out there. Those are the guys that are close, or at least we're getting some inkling as far as where they're trending. I want to do a more in-depth segment on some of the other positions. We'll probably talk about the defensive line next week and maybe some wide receiver, because I know everybody's really interested in those two positions in particular. But yeah, that's kind of what I have right now. Don't want to spend too much time, because this is going to be a big class. So, I don't want to spend too much time on one position group. But offensive line right now is kind of where I have my eyes on, because I think this is the number one priority for this class, because you're going to have a lot of spots open after next year. Shout out to Tate Reynolds. I believe he has jumped up to the number one quarterback or number one player in the state of Arizona. He won the Arizona State Player of the Year. he's continuing to rise up. I really think Clemson got a really, really talented football player in Tate Reynolds. I know he says he's a 3-star. I don't think he'll finish a 3-star. I think he has top 200 type player on written on him. I think especially as he continues to camp, he's a guy that hasn't been playing quarterback very long.
Right.
So I wanted to give him a shout out as well. One of Clemson's quarterback commits in the class, and the one that I think will ultimately be play here. Shout out to Brock Bradley, because he's been cooking a little bit in the camp circuit as well. But I wanted to give a quick shout out to Tate Reynolds, because I think he's still being underrated nationally, and not just I'm a Clemson fan, so he's going to. I'm obviously going to think every Clemson commit is underrated. No, I think Tate Reynolds is a legitimate blue chip type of quarterback with tremendous arm talent and physical tools. And
he's definitely got the arm talent, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you see his progression from this season, from last season as a first-year starter to this year. It's insane. He's put up over 4,000 total yards and like 40-something touchdowns. Like he's I think he's going to be really, really good. The production is matching, and he's impressed a lot of people as he's gotten out there to more camps. So I think you'll see his the ranking isn't everything, and I would still love him even if his ranking didn't change. But I do expect to see him rise when the next update comes, because he really is a talented football player, and a guy that I think could come in. And I don't know if he'll start in 2026.
Right.
He's a guy that I think could work his way into the rotation because of talent.
While we're on the subject of quarterback, before we transition from the recruiting update, obviously Clemson's got a couple recruits that have already committed in the 2026 class. You talked about Tate Reynolds, also got Brock Bradley, both 3-star recruits, but also behind Cade Klubnik, you got Chris Vizina. So just talk a little bit moving forward. What is your confidence level for Clemson moving forward at the quarterback position? Obviously, we got one more year of Cade Klubnik, and we're super excited about that. And we expect that to be really elite quarterback play this year. But after 2025, there's kind of a question mark. So is it going to be Chris Vizina? Is it going to be Tate Reynolds? Is it going to be Brock Bradley? What is kind of your confidence level for that quarterback room going forward after Cade Klubnik moves on to the NFL?
Yeah, the quarterback is always it's difficult to project. You really don't know until you know. But I think with the way that Clemson has structured it and recruited the quarterback position the last couple of cycles, they're going to have a really diverse group of guys. But I think guys that could all fit into this system. You mentioned, Chris Vizina obviously is the guy that's been marinating in the program and the presumed next in line next season. And then you bring in a true freshman, Chris Denson from Florida, who has extremely high athletic tools. Got a really big ratings bump on On3. That was pretty cool to see. Not sure a guy that I think is going to be come in and ready to compete for a starting spot, but we'll see. He looked pretty impressive, and some of the workout footage that we've seen released, he looks the part, I think, and so that's obviously a good sign. And so and then obviously Tate Reynolds and Brock Bradley coming in next season or in 2026, like. This group, you're going to have a really, really diverse group of guys in terms of skill set and body type. So, some of them are not necessarily going to be guys that are ready to start. So that has me questioning. I don't think you have a surefire, like, this guy is obviously going to be great type of player. Like, I think there are obvious drawbacks to every single one, as there is with most recruits.
Right.
But this is not you're stacking Trevor, Deshaun Watson, and then
we got no Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence walking through.
Trevor Lawrence, and then you had Hunter Johnson in between as a 5-star, and
Kelly Bryant.
You don't have that collection of blue chip guys, but I'm really high on, especially high on Tate Reynolds. I think Chris Denson has a lot of potential. And with Chris Vizina being a guy that's been sitting in the program for a while, I'm a little more confident in Vizina than probably the general Clemson fan is. I feel like he's a guy that has always had the physical tools, and when he has played, he's flashed a little bit of that ability. I think he offers a ton as a runner, and I think the arm talent is there. It's a matter of putting it putting it out there on the field and executing, being able to execute the offense. And so I think we'll learn a lot this season if Clemson is as good as I hope they are and believe they can be. You're going to see it. You're going to have some opportunities to see him a lot more, maybe in some backup and, get him some reps, valuable reps for next season. But I am a believer in the guy that sits in a program for a long time behind a long-time starter and and is ready to go. And, maybe he starts one season, 1 or 2 seasons, but he's had the same offensive coordinator since he's been here, and I think that means a lot.
And heading into 2026, he's going to have 2 years of eligibility, right?
Yep.
And to your point, I was going to mention, like, there's something to be said about a guy like Chris Vizina who's willing to sit, who's willing to just kind of play behind that starter and grind and get better and hopefully be developing this entire time. It does give you a bit of confidence when you got a veteran guy in the program that has been in Garrett Riley's system for this entire time, and hopefully when he's starting, he's still in that same system, unless Garrett Riley decides to move on. But I think there's something to be said for a guy like that who, in a world of college football where when you're as highly recruited as Chris Vizina was and kind of coming in, you don't see very many of those guys sitting multiple years, much less willing to sit seasons, and still stick around, and still bide his time, and say that he's committed to Clemson and this is where he's staying. So there's something to be said for that. So if that translates on the field, obviously I think he's got a leg up on anybody coming in. Those guys are uber talented. Tate Reynolds, a guy that can kind of execute the offense that Garrett Riley, he's a good fit for what Garrett Riley likes to do offensively. But there is something to be said about a guy in Chris Vizina who's willing to stick around 3 years and grind it out for his opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, with that being said, I think, while it's not the quarterback classes that we're used to, so, oh man, we got the 5-star type of player. I think what Clemson has emphasized the last couple cycles is fit, guys that are, plus value players with their arm and their legs. Garrett Riley likes it. Guys that are well built. I think that's another thing. I think Chris Denson will have to get a little bit bigger, but I think he's a guy that can put on the size and without too much of a ding to his athleticism. And then I think Tate Reynolds is, from a body type standpoint, is already in a really good place. I think in Vizina the same way. I think he's already in a really good place from a body type standpoint. It feels like Clemson has recruited a bunch of Josh Allen type players, and that's kind of what I envision. Not in terms of I'm not comparing these players to Josh Allen. Don't forget, I'm talking about archetype, the big bodied, plus value with plus value with their legs, but they have really, really good arms like that. That's what I envision with Clemson in terms of what the archetype and the mold of what they want in their quarterback is, because they're a team that emphasizes the quarterback run game, but they want a guy that can spin it and make it throws at all levels of the field.
So you're saying we got future NFL MVPs on our roster?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Y'all can go ahead and clip me. Let's just put that out there. Might as well. We'll get angry comments anyway.
You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first.
Yeah. But no, I'm excited about all of these guys because I do think they bring something different to the table.
Yeah.
But they are all, I think they fit a similar mold for what Clemson likes and what Garrett seems to like in his quarterbacks. Matt, maybe a better comparison is Max Duggan, because Garrett Riley coached Max Duggan.
There you go.
But Max Duggan was a well-built kid, but could make throws at every level of the field. And that's probably the better comparison than saying Josh Allen, because people are automatically going to bristle at that.
No, I like the Josh Allen comparison better. No, we're sticking with the Josh Allen one.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe Max Duggan is the better example. I'll say that. Which, hey, if you can get Max Duggan production every year,
hey man, ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Look, he made it. He may not have made it in the NFL, but guess what? Ask me how much I care what dudes do in the NFL.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Does not matter.
Exactly.
It's nice to see Clemson guys go and have great success, and yes, it is good for the program and recruiting and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's all about what you do while you're in that. While you got that tiger pole on your helmet. So, I root for them in the NFL, but honestly, I base it off of what they do at Clemson.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for the planned portion of the show. We got 35 people in the live chat right now. Make sure you guys like this video. Help us out with that. It does us a lot of good on these live videos. If you hit that like button, get us as close to that 35 number as you possibly can. We're also on the road to 6,000 subscribers. So if you guys could help us out with that, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Share this video. Tell all of your college football friends and family and whoever about this show. Me and Jordan do the All In Show right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football every single Wednesday, 8 p.m. year-round. During the season, we also do post-game live videos immediately following every single Clemson game. You do not have to be a Clemson fan to stick around here and be a subscriber. We got several other fan bases in here, and we welcome all. So sounds like something you're interested in. Stick around with us, subscribe. And with that said, it is time to turn it over to you guys, the live chat. Get your questions in, get your comments in, and we'll chop it up with you guys for a little bit, and then we'll cut out of here. So, Jordan, let's see what the people are talking about.
Yeah, let's do it. I have a couple starred. Tiger Fan 24 asked earlier in the show. He said, "We have 5 blue chip guys in the safety room. Who's going to have the chance to step up and show why they were top 200 and 100 ranked guys coming out of high school? Ricardo Jones and Noah Dixon are the 2." Yeah, I mean, those would be guys that I'm looking at first on the list. These are guys that have, as true freshmen, at different points during the offseason, we heard their names. Ricardo Jones, obviously, we saw more of the field. Noah Dixon, not quite as much. But 2 guys that I think are going to be really, really good football players. And, you need some guys to step up in that safety room. I think those are 2 really good options. You still have some guys that have been in the program a while, Rob Billings and, Kylan Griffin. We'll see kind of how that shakes out, because I'm really intrigued by that. But yeah, I think Ricardo Jones and Noah Dixon are the obvious 2, and especially Ricardo Jones. I really think he's going to take a big jump in year 2.
Yeah, he's definitely one with one of the better options there. Yeah, but definitely a big hole to fill with R.J. Mickens off to the league. But a lot of good options there. So I think spring practice will go a long way in shaking that out and just kind of seeing where the chips fall, because somebody's going to have to step up in a big way, or a couple guys. So
yep.
There's plenty of room for playing time, which should foster a really competitive environment, which is always what you want.
Yep. Absolutely. John Sarin also mentioned, Kylan Webb. He's a guy we've seen very little of, so I want to see him take a step, because I really liked him coming out of high school.
Right.
Um,
Quite
but
a
it
bit of
just,
unknowns in that
yeah,
safety room,
yeah,
just from what they're going to be at the college level.
yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Intelligent Savage reminding everybody to smash the like button.
Yes, sir.
If you haven't already.
Appreciate that.
Tiggs asked, is that a Notre Dame hat? It seems like every time you wear that hat, I think you get that
I
question.
think I get the question every time. This is not a Notre Dame hat. It's Live Lucky Black Clover hat. It's an apparel company. So no, it's not a Notre Dame hat. I know it's kind of deceiving because of the clover, but
Yeah.
no, not Notre Dame. I don't own any Notre Dame gear.
John hits us with a BYOG or sell. He says, in as many seasons, Michigan rips buys their second Clemson verbal defensive back again. Shavar Young being hammered by them. I'm gonna slightly sell. I do have some concerns about Shavar Young. Always when you have a guy that commits early, especially a guy out of state in a place like Tennessee, like that's you've opened yourself up a little bit, and with how things worked out for Clemson last cycle, that trend obviously has not gone Clemson's way lately, and so I'll sell for now, but I do think Shavar Young is a guy that's getting a lot of attention, not just by Michigan but by multiple other schools. We'll see. We'll see.
That's. I hope so. I hope that we can hang on, but yeah, the recency, the recent trend has not been very kind to Clemson. So I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, we'll see. I really like Shavar Young. I think is a guy that really talented player to add to your safety room.
I'm with you. I'll sell for now. I think Clemson's put themselves in a better situation than they were in 2025, or excuse me, 2024. When it comes to hanging on to recruits, I think you can see the emphasis. Not that there wasn't an emphasis in recruiting before, but you can kind of see there's kind of a different pace from the coaching staff this year for the 2026 class than there was a season ago. So um, I think maybe that 2025 class was a bit of a wake up call for Clemson, just losing so many um, high profile recruits that they had verbal commits from. I don't think anybody on the coaching staff expected that. And I think that was eye opening for Dabo and the rest of the coaching staff. Um, and if I know Dabo or Clemson as a whole, like they're going to make adjustments based off of that. So um, I wouldn't look for 5 or 6 decommits to become the trend at Clemson. Um, Hopefully that year is just stands out and is an anomaly.
Yeah. Intelligent Savage asks, do you guys see Clemson spinning the block on running back Jalen McGill, 2026 class, now that he reopened recruiting at this point, even with Gideon Davidson already here? No. Clemson, they would, let me say this. I think Clemson would take his commitment if he wanted to, if he wanted to commit, but they have other guys that they're putting more priority over right now. Which honestly I think is the right move. I don't think Jalen McGill's a bad player, but there's some baggage there, and obviously that you saw how long his commitment to Rutgers lasted. I think that tells you kind of how that recruitment has gone, and he has some issues with how Clemson recruited him. So I don't see Clemson revisiting that unless he reaches out and wants to commit. So
Yeah, that'd probably be one of those ones where he has to open that door.
yeah,
Um,
but otherwise, I don't expect him to be pursued. That effing guy, what a name. Do you guys think Gideon Davidson will get a chance to play this season? I think he's our most skilled running back already. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he'll play. I feel if he, with running back, being a starter is kind of arbitrary, but he'll play. I'm pretty confident he'll play, barring injury.
I would suspect him being in the top 2 of the rotation. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
RB1, RB2, but he'll definitely be top 2 of the running back rotation this year. Yeah. I would assume.
I think Clemson needs him to play.
If it all works out according to plan. But I think the coaching staff expects him to come in and compete immediately for playing time.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of confidence in the running back room this past season, obviously. So he has got a clear path to playing time if he comes in and takes care of business.
Intelligent Savage 629. He says, "Did you guys watch Two Right Turns podcast and check out transfer portal players on the show? Was impressed with all 3 guys, but who impressed you guys the most on the show?" I did watch it. Who impressed me the most? It's a good question. I don't know. I really liked Tristan Smith just because he just comes from he had a different path to Clemson than anybody else. And, coming from the he played JUCO and then played FCS ball at SEMO. Like, his path to Clemson was unique. And, he's a guy that wasn't recruited really heavily, at all really out of high school. And so I like the guy that, overcame odds and all that. And so,
I mean,
he's a guy that seems very, humble, but sure of himself. That was, when he talked about how he cried when he got the offer, like that was, I thought that was really nice.
I mean, I was going to say Tristan Smith as well. He really impressed me. You mentioned his great story of just the grind that kid has gone from, to being basically a very under-recruited high school player to grinding in JUCO to, Southeastern, wherever he went, to Clemson. It's a really cool story. And those are always ones that fans love. And, just the fact that when he came to Clemson, one of the other things that stands out to me for him is he had other visits to go on. And when he got to Clemson and, he kind of said it, he's like, I started talking to all the players and everybody loves to be here. And it just he's like, it just hit me. Like, I want to play football here. And then when Dabo Swinney called him in the office and made the offer, it was a commit on the spot type of thing. And, him and his brother, got emotional and, it's just a really cool story. And, seems like a really humble guy. But to your point, a confident guy, because hitting the portal, I mean, that took a lot of confidence. It's not like people were, beating down his door or anything like that, right? He took a leap of faith and betted on himself. And I think overall ended up in a pretty good position at Clemson with hopefully a couple years. If he can get that waiver, which I'm assuming that shouldn't be an issue. So hopefully we got Tristan Smith for a couple years. And man, I hope he has a good run as a Tiger.
I'm excited to see him and just kind of hear what, especially when spring ball, rolls around. All 3 of the transfers, I'll be, we'll obviously be having our ear close to the ground about all that, just seeing what's coming out of there. But, Tristan, I really like Tristan's story because it was different. And, as you just as a fan, you always just love the guys that commit, that come to Clemson because it's Clemson, and it's where they want to be. And
Yeah.
I mean, there was that with Jeremiah Alexander and Will Help too, like that, they wanted to be here.
Oh yeah.
But it was different just because those guys are coming from Power 5 schools. Jeremiah Alexander was a 5-star coming out of high school. Like they had the more conventional routes,
Right.
as far as P5 to P5 transfer type of thing, or P4. I mean, so, but with Tristan, it was like he had to make a name for himself. Like there was no, like, nobody, he wasn't recruited much out of high school. He had to go to the JUCO route, and then he had to go to the FCS route, and he had a really strong season there despite some really rough quarterback play if you watch his tape.
Yeah.
And then he took a chance on himself because he talked about it. He said I've always been about what's my next step in my progression, and what's my next chapter in my life, that and so when he entered the transfer portal, he's like it was something like I had no sure things, like I didn't have any assurances coming out, but I bet on myself, and so that was really cool. So
yeah, it was awesome.
and just and the story of his visit and committing in Dabo's office, like it reminds you of something, the regular like high school recruiting stories that Clemson has had over the years. And it just
Right.
When that Clemson offer, like that's what Clemson means when they value the offer, and that's what Tristan embodies what that sort of represents.
And not all recruits like that, but the ones that do are the ones that Clemson really targets, and they know how rare and how special that offer is, and that it means something. Clemson doesn't just throw offers out there just to kind of see what sticks. So it was really cool. I thought one of the other funny things is when they went around the room and asked them what sport they would play if they didn't play football.
Oh yeah, and he said badminton.
He said badminton.
That made me laugh.
Everybody, I think Jeremiah Alexander was like, "What? What'd you say?"
That was pretty funny. He's like, I meant to say basketball, but that was the first thing that came to mind.
He's like, "Yeah, I meant to say basketball, but he said badminton." So he will forever be the badminton player.
It's a fun game to play. So I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, but the other thing, just kind of talking about all three of them, you could hear. They all talked about the conversations that they had with Dabo Swinney, and the difference that it is with Clemson than a lot of other places. And I know I can already see the eye rolls, right? But they just approach it from a different standpoint, and the conversations aren't all about football. Yes, do they talk football, but it's more about who they are as a person, as a player. Where they come from, their background, stuff like that. So that was really cool to hear all the guys talk about. But yeah, it's nice to have all of those guys on board, because I do think each and every one will contribute to Clemson while they're here. So definitely much needed. And he brings a body type that Clemson could really benefit from on the outside.
Oh yeah,
protection type receiver, jump balls. So definitely fills not a void, but definitely gives depth to that receiver room, and just a different style guy out there. They can get it done in a little bit of a different way.
Yep.
And then obviously Will Help. I mean, that dude's going to be. I can't wait to see him opposite TJ Parker on the field together. That's going to be really fun to watch.
He's massive. Will, like huge, you don't realize it until you see him in the pictures.
See the pictures from like mat drills and stuff like that. You're like, whoa, this dude that's a big dude, and he can move. So that's it's going to be fun to watch him, and I think he's really excited about being a part of a program that kind of has a winning history. It's not easy to go. What they go 1-11 last year?
Something like that. Purdue, yeah.
That's tough, man. That's a tough season. So he's definitely excited about being in Clemson, and that's cool to see. And then obviously Jeremiah Alexander. I mean, he's had a long history with Dabo and Clemson, and a lot of the coaches on the staff. So I don't think anything surprises him about Clemson. He's been there. He was heavily recruited by Clemson. Ultimately, went to Alabama.
He was a silent commit to Clemson.
He was a silent commit to Clemson until he went back home, and they drugged him up with that Alabama Kool-Aid over there.
They did.
But we got him back home. Got him back home. So his home away from home at Clemson. So.
BYOG or sell from Tiggs. Clemson will go 12-1 in 2025. So I'm just assuming through the conference championship game, they go 11-1 regular season, win the ACC, or go 12-0 and lose the ACC championship, whichever one.
Yeah.
I can buy it. BYOG.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
John asks, he says, odds on CJ Kuba-Taylor being a surprise solid linebacker this season. High odds for me, but we haven't seen anything yet. So, yeah, I'm really high on CJ Kuba-Taylor's upside. I question just how much he's going to contribute because there is just this linebacker room is still kind of – there's just a lot of pieces there. But we'll see because I really do. I mean, he's a guy that he could take that jump just because you consider his progression from high school, a guy that – made the transition to linebacker really late in his career. I mean, he started playing football later in his career. He flashed on tape every time you saw him. I think he's a guy that with the upside, we'll see if this one offseason is enough for him to take that jump to, be ahead of guys like D. Creighton or Kobe McLeod and Jamal Anderson. We'll see, but I could see it. Just because of what he brings from a athletic profile standpoint.
That's definitely one of the big questions heading into spring, right? Is kind of how that linebacker room is going to shake out. And, CJ Kuba-Taylor is definitely going to be part of that and how the depth – I mean, obviously, Sammy Brown and Wade Woodaz are going to take the starter snaps.
Yeah.
But what does that depth look like behind them? Who's the first to run out there? What does that pecking order look like in the linebacker room? I'm sure Jeremiah Alexander is going to have something to say about that. Exactly. But CJ Kuba-Taylor's one. How is Kobe McLeod going to bounce back from the ACL tear? Is he going to be? Some guys respond differently from that injury. Some guys are kind of. It takes them a while to be the same. Some guys bounce back really nicely, like an Amari Rogers did. Right, that looked like it never happened. It somehow got faster. I don't know how that worked, but then some guys are, more like an Adam Randall, where it kind of took a while until he started feeling more comfortable. So that'll go a long way in deciding that pecking order as well. But it's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah. Tiggs has a big question is, will we learn how to stop the run and actually tackle someone? Yeah. I mean,
we better.
It does come down to it for sure.
We better learn how to stop the run and tackle, especially open field tackles. We got to get that cleaned up. Linebackers taking terrible angles. Got to get that cleaned up.
Yeah. Dylan says, most emotional, Tristan Smith, most chill, Will Helt, and most confident, Jeremiah Alexander. I think that's
probably very accurate for all three of those. Yeah. Very accurate takes there.
Tiger Tom with a good question. It's not off topic at all. It's something I'm going to be interested to see as well. He says, question. Off-topic question, however, been super busy lately. What is the breakdown of duties between Jordan Sorrell and Kevin Kelly? Is Kelly serving as a GM? So no, Jordan Sorrells will still be the general manager.
Yep.
As far as like how like his duties and Kevin Kelly, I think there'll definitely be some overlap. But they're going to be working hand in hand on a lot of things. But Kevin Kelly, from what I understand, I mean, it's going to be about player scouting, player identification.
Yeah. So his official title is Director of Player Evaluation and Acquisition. So I think in a lot of senses, to your point, they'll be working hand in hand, but two different positions.
Yeah, but and we'll see because there's no like where there's nowhere to look and like, okay, this is what he does and this is what he does. Like they're not obligated to do any of that. So,
Yeah,
but they're going to be working. They're going to be working hand in hand, and they're going to be very closely. Like they're going to definitely going to have some overlap in sort of their responsibilities because they both are going to be instrumental in roster construction and player acquisition.
Right. I think Kevin Kelly will probably lean more heavily into the scouting. He is a scout by trade, so scouting the transfer portal probably. Maybe even scouting high school. He'll probably lean more into that, but I'm sure they'll work together a lot, and I'm sure Dabo maybe once we finally hear Dabo talk to the media for the first time since a lot of these hires have been made. Maybe we'll get a little bit more of a clear picture of his vision for those hires and what they'll be doing. But that's his official title. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But both are going to be very important over the next. I mean, they're already really important. Jordan Soros has been in part of the program a while now.
Absolutely. Insane that we're at a point in college football where coaches have to start building a front office. It's crazy.
Yeah, Intelligent Savage. Talking about Tristan Smith, him and his brother having the same reaction to the Dabo calling them both in his office, and in the offer when he made the offer, they both got emotional. Like that's. I mean, it tells you a lot. I mean, it's not just the player that's impacted. It's the family, and he talked about his mom over the crying over the phone, because the people. It's not just the players, but the people around them see how hard they work. And when you're a guy like Tristan Smith who didn't have the conventional route to a school like Clemson, where he had to work a million times harder to get it to get noticed and to stand out. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, it shows his journey. I think that reaction is just probably a combination of emotions, just based off of the difficulty of his journey and the grind that he had to go through to get to the point where he was at a major, D1 college football program, right? And I'm sure his family made a lot of sacrifices along the way as well to help him get there. So it's cool to watch or hear about kind of the family's reaction and just know that they probably played a pretty big piece of his journey as well.
Dylan says Tristan, the next Cornell Powell. And I mean there's some similarities. Tristan's bigger, but I guess in terms of like older guy
journey, that would be cool.
Like older guy that I mean, Cornell Powell was in the program the whole time, so he wasn't like a transfer or anything like that. But he didn't. He's the older guy in the room that has a breakout season in his last year or something like that. I could see that. But quick man, Cornell Powell in 2020, man, he was a lot of fun. And they needed him too. I mean, you think that was kind of the beginning of the end of Clemson's wide receiver run. It was Amari Rogers and Amari Rogers and him. Those were the main guys.
That was it, and then it took a major nosedive after those two guys left.
Yeah. And Cornell Powell just kind of came out of nowhere. I remember I like what was it was DJ's, like he really like came on. I think DJ's first start against Boston College, if you remember that comeback. You know, when Clemson went down, we were down what, like 21-3, 21-10.
Yeah, it was something crazy. Yeah.
That was when they had who was the quarterback? Phil Dracovic.
Yeah, Phil Jacoby.
Yeah, man, that Jeff Hafley was that feels like a lifetime ago now.
It feels so long, like so much has happened since then. Yeah, it feels like that was 10 years ago, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that was when he really started. I think he had like 11, 12 catches in that game, something crazy like that. And then he kind of never looked back. He had the big game against Notre Dame, and then when Trevor Lawrence came back, he didn't skip a beat. His game against Pitt, man, that was I remember he made the Instagram post where he said, "If I wanted to play with kids, I would." What was the caption? I don't remember. It was something hard, but like he tagged the Pitt player. He said, if I wanted to play with kids, I would. It was something that
I can't remember.
I can't remember it, but it was he was a lot of fun. Shout out to Cornell Powell. He's still on the Chiefs, isn't he? I think he's on the practice squad. I want to say, or maybe he's playing.
I don't know where he's at now. I know he was on the Chiefs practice squad for a long time, but I don't know. I know he got a Super Bowl ring.
He's with the Seahawks now.
Oh, he's with the Seahawks now. Well,
yeah.
I know he got a Super Bowl ring with the Chiefs. So,
yep. He got two. So.
Two. There you go. Our boy D Hop still can't get one.
Yeah.
We'll see if he's got another year in him.
Yeah. Dylan also asked, are we back to P5 schools with all the state schools joining Pac-12, Oregon State and Washington State? I don't think the Pac-12 is going to be recognized. Whatever the new Pac-12 looks like is going to be recognized as a power conference. I don't.
We'll see what it looks like when they figure it all out. But I honestly don't see them being recognized. I mean, look, if the ACC 12 are relegated as second-rate conferences, what do you think they're going to do to the Pac-12?
Yeah. It's more like they're like a G6.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Let's see.
Yeah, that was Intelligent Savage said Jeremiah Alexander's reaction to the number of hours the freshmen have to put in was priceless.
Oh yeah, that was funny. Yeah,
he's like, they got to go to how much tutoring?
Yeah, no. He's like, that's crazy. And Tristan was like, yeah, I don't know nothing about that. I'm glad I'm not a freshman. Yeah, that was pretty.
You could tell they came from schools that did things way differently.
Yeah,
academically.
It's serious. Like it was eye opening.
Yeah, they were like, oh, they don't play around here. They got to go.
So why else do you think Clemson has that 99%?
Right.
98, whatever it is.
That don't just happen. You know, they make them dudes go to tutoring. You gonna get them grades up.
Matt Falls with a good comparison. Smith will be like Kevin Youngblood. Man, that's a name.
That's a name. He pulled one out right there.
Yeah.
That's a name.
Isn't he what is he doing? Isn't he like doesn't he work for like the FBI now? I think, or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's like some kind of special agent. He's really cool. I was very I was like, I don't remember him much when he was at Clemson, because I was like, I want to say I was like 4, probably. He was there around the same time Tony Elliott, and like that was like the Charlie Whitehurst, like end of Woody Dantzler, beginning of Charlie's run type, kind of right in that area. Secret
Yep.
Service. That's what it is. I couldn't remember. I knew it was something. I knew it was something like that. But yeah, I was very young when he played. But that's the name right there. Shout out. Clemson had some. Kevin Youngblood always sticks out to me just because of that name. That's such a cool name.
Yeah, he's been in the Secret Service since 2009.
Yeah,
So 15 years.
it's pretty cool. Yeah, he's
Shout out to Kevin
he's
Youngblood.
he's on the Clemson all name team because
Yeah.
I love that last name, Youngblood, and then like him, and then this is baseball, but Jaron Purify.
Purify. Yeah, that's a great name.
That's such a dope. That's a dope ass
great
last name, man. It's just it just works. It just works. But shout out to Kevin Youngblood though, Clemson legend. Maybe not a legend, but he was a good player.
Hey, look.
Those early, not really early, but yeah, kind of early. Yeah, early Tommy Bowden years.
Yeah, earlier Tommy Bowden years. Yeah.
So you had your Derek Hamiltons and your Tony Elliott's. Your who am I thinking of? First round pick. I'm forgetting. But yeah. Let's see. John says, well, UNC beat the snot out of the pack today, and SMU did the same to Notre Dame. Both winners had 97 points. Yikes. Yeah, I mean, SMU doesn't surprise me that much. They've been playing pretty good, but yeah, UNC, like, they're just bipolar, man. I don't know what I don't know. It's just they'll play terrible for like 5-6 games at a time, and then just play out of their mind and look like they actually have McDonald's All-Americans and like real basketball players. Yeah, I watched them. Maybe there was the rivalry game motivation and being at home, but
yeah,
they look more like what they should have looked like this year.
Yeah, it must have been because it was NC State. Yeah, 97-73. Jeez.
Yeah.
Literally the same score in both games. SMU 97, Notre Dame 73, North Carolina 97, North Carolina State 73. That's weird. That's got to be, that's weird. How do they both have the same score? Rod Garner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a name.
Rod Garner.
I hope no Gamecock fans are listening.
You know what they're thinking right now.
Yeah.
First thing that comes to mind when they think about Rod Gardner.
Yeah. It wasn't a push off.
The infamous not push off.
Yeah.
He was a Woody Dantzler.
Rod, he went in the first round, didn't he? I think he did.
I think so.
Pretty sure he did.
I'd have to look it up to be sure, but I think he did.
Clemson wasn't recognized. They didn't have the run of wide receivers back then that they ended up having. Like, they weren't known for it like they ended up being. Even though, throughout history, Clemson's had some great wide receivers, but it's really been, within the last 10, 15 years where they really got the reputation. But you had guys before, obviously, the Perry Tuttles.
Pick 15 in 2001.
I thought so. I was like that. I'm pretty sure. I don't think he ever did much in the league, but he got drafted, went first round, so that's all I care about.
Got drafted to the Washington Redskins. Played with them for 3 years, and then the Panthers, the Packers, and the Chiefs, and then he was out of the league. So,
shout out to Rod Gardner, Clemson legend. Let's see. Yeah, John says, was the Pac-12 even a Power 5 before? Nobody watched most games and the revenues were small. Yeah. they were pretty fringe. They didn't have the back, but they had the brands, and that was what kept them relevant. The USCs and the Oregons and the Washingtons.
Yeah, they don't have those anymore.
No. Nope. And once they left, that was it. Everybody else jumped ship.
It's unfortunate, man. I think about it like, I wish we could go back to when we had a Power Five. But whatever.
Yeah. I miss I wish the Pac-12 didn't dissolve. Like,
yeah,
I could change that.
I wish we could move all the teams that moved back to where they were.
Yeah.
Starting with Texas and Oklahoma.
Yep. Because that was the catalyst.
That was the first domino that fell. And then, Greg Sankey just walks around like, what? All this expansion, what? I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Shut up, Greg Sankey.
Yeah.
Literally, you're the first one that did it. You started this.
Tiggs asks, who on the Clemson squad will be the next Fridge? There won't be another.
Never
Fridge.
Again.
Yeah.
I know we use like generational talent a lot, but that's a true generational guy right there. That's a once in a lifetime. You'll never see a guy like that again.
Yeah. Dex was the closest.
Yeah.
Dex is a true freak.
He is.
You're Clemson. You don't get guys like that.
No.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, so I don't think there's anybody on the squad. You don't need anybody to be the next Fridge, but
no. I mean, I wish we had another one.
I'd take it, but Dexter Lawrence is the closest we'll ever see to
that dude's killing it in the league, man.
Yeah,
he just plays for a terrible team.
Yeah, so
he's doing his thing.
And if he was on a better team, he would be, because what he's doing is historic. Like he's he's a zero tech, so like he doesn't have the gaudy sack numbers that Aaron Donald has, but like in terms of impact on the game, like he's as close to Aaron Donald as there is in the league as far as defensive tackles right now. He's
unblockable.
Yeah. Intelligent Savage is talking about Capehart has to fight off Green, Adams, or someone else for his job on defense. I mean, I don't think he has to fight for his job necessarily. I think Cape is going to play. He's too good not to play, but I think that, and I think he's going to start. But like, definitely think you'll see guys.
There'll be a rotation.
Yeah. Stephon Green is the obvious choice right now. I think he's just really the furthest along of the guys in that room, and
he did a lot of good for himself last year.
Yeah, he did. When he played, he stood out. Basically every time he got out there, he's going to be a dude. Let's see. Yeah, David. Yeah, Dex. James says Michael Dean Perry was better. I've heard some fans say that, but like when you consider what William was able to do with like at his size, like nobody that big should be moving the way that he did. Like, and I'm talking like I remember these personally, but I've watched old Clemson games and what he was a great player. He was a really good player in the NFL too. Probably didn't get enough love on those defenses, but like he was a true freak. And I think if he had if he had a better support system around him, I think he would have been even better. Because I think that in some ways he was a victim of his own success at times, and he obviously he had a lot of struggles and vices throughout his life that I think affected that as well. So, but yeah, I don't think there'll ever be another William Refrigerator Perry. Yeah, just
no.
He was insane. Matt Falls, yeah, Chester McLaughlin, another great one. He's up there for sure. But I think the Fridge takes the cake in terms of like just. I think in terms of the freaks list, I think it's him and Dex. I think those are the best, like those are the biggest, like the unicorns that you'll ever see, like at defensive tackle that Clemson will ever have.
Yeah.
Christian Wilkins was great, but he was kind of he came in, he's kind of an undersized guy, but he got bigger, and he moves really well for his size, but
he's very athletic. Yeah.
He didn't have he just didn't have he's not the imposing force that the Fridge or Dex was. So yeah, and Christian Wilkins got got more of the accolades, but Dex was the freak on those defenses, on that defensive line. Like he's different.
Yeah. If you smash those two dudes together, that would be you give Dex Christian Wilkins athleticism. That would be an insane player.
Yeah. Yeah, John says, yeah, Dex couldn't move downfield like the Fridge, though. Yeah, that's my thing. Like that's what I think gives the Fridge the edge. Just the way he moved, he could move. Like I saw old highlights of him chasing down running backs. Like that just how much he was like 320. He was insane. He was insane. You don't get that. He's yeah. Mr. 2X says, what do you think the likelihood of Adam Randall starting at tailback is? Starting, I would say not super high.
Low, yeah.
But partially just because I'm so high on Gideon Davidson, and you couple that with, but his odds are a little bit better because he's gonna be with Jay Haynes working his way back from a torn ACL. You still have Keith Adams Jr., but I think it's going to be Gideon. He's my, if I had to put like odds on it, I'd say like I'm probably on he's probably like plus 100 odds. So like, and I'm probably selling him short. He probably should be in minus territory, but like that's what I'd say. And that's just me throwing out a random number, but like I think he's very close to minus money territory in terms of like his odds of starting, because I think he brings too much of a different element to this running back room not to play. And I think he's and running back as a position from high school to college, it's arguably the easiest position to transition to. You're either good or you're not. Like when you're a running back, like that's why Will Shipley played so early. That's why Travis Etienne got on the field as quickly as he did. Like it just CJ Spiller. I mean, you think of the great running backs that Clemson's had over the years. Wayne Gallman played early as a freshman. Like Gideon is different, and I think he's going to be really good, and I think he's ready to play now. So. I think it's going to be Gideon when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Look, I don't know what Adam Randall's role will be on the offense, but I do think he's going to contribute in some way. What?
Yeah, I think he'll contribute, and he acquitted himself well in that playoff game.
Yeah, I mean,
in the few carries he got,
he looked pretty good. So, I think he'll carve out some type of role in this offense this year, but I don't I don't know that any of us know what it'll exactly look like, but I don't think he'll be RB1. And if he is, either he's way better than we all know, or that we all expect, or we're not we're not we're not developing in that room like we should be.
Yeah.
Yes, intelligent savage. Yep.
Yeah, David says Fridge came along. If he came along now with the nutrition and training, he would have been one of the best ever in the NFL. I think so. Yeah,
For sure.
I agree. The intelligence savage says, so who are your guys' all-time Clemson defensive line if you could have them all here at once?
Ooh.
Oh, man.
I'd have to sit down and think about that for a
I'd
minute.
have to sit down and think about that one too. Okay. Because the defensive tackle alone is going to be
that's tough.
Really difficult.
We've had a lot of good ones, man.
Yeah.
And we're talking all time too.
All time. Shoot, man, you put me on the spot. Okay, I'm gonna list it off. I'm gonna take a shot in the dark. Okay, so I'm gonna go with the Fridge. If we're doing you're just gonna do four defensive linemen. Fridge.
4 down linemen, Fridge for sure.
I'm debating Dexter or Christian Wilkins. I'm gonna say Dexter because he was the biggest, but Christian Wilkins had he had the bigger accolades, and I think Christian Wilkins I think people remember him more. He was,
he's just more charismatic.
Yeah,
he was definitely more of a fan favorite because of his personality.
Can I cheat and put Christian Wilkins at defensive end like we did in 2015? No, I won't do that.
I mean, he did play at defensive end.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but
if you're just going from sheer talent, it's probably Dexter and Fridge.
I'll say Dex and Fridge, and then defensive end I'm going Vic Beasley, and I'm gonna go with Gaines Adams.
Gaines Adams. Okay. Yeah.
R.I.P. I love Gaines. I love Gaines Adams. He was so much fun. Yeah, I think that'll be my 4, but that's tough because you still have Cleveland Farrell and we Clemson's run at edge rusher was pretty spectacular too. So that one's tough.
Cleveland Farrell, Shaq Lawson.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that one's tough. Hey, Nick Eason.
Nick Eason, yeah.
Yeah, that one's tough. But yeah, I'm going to stick with that as my 4.
I'm going
Vic Beasley, Dexter Lawrence, Fridge, and Gaines Adams. That'll be my 4. That one's tough.
Yeah, there's another. Yeah, Grady Jarrett.
Grady Jarrett. That one's tough.
Daquan Bowers. Yeah.
I would love to put Grady Jarrett in there, but if I'm picking a starting 4.
Yeah, but if you're Grady Jarrett's a great player, and just look no further than the success that he had in the NFL too. But he is a really undersized defensive tackle, and although he uses his leverage well, and he's very good.
One of the hardest working players.
But if you're picking somebody with both the size and the talent, you got to go with those 2 guys at D tackle. But that rotation at D tackle would be crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you just start listing off all the elite defensive tackles we've had from your starting 2 of Refrigerator Perry to Dexter Lawrence to
Michael Dean Perry locked in
Michael Dean Perry.
That one's that's an impossible ask, man. But like people no, I'm sorry, I got to leave Shaq Lawson off. Like there's
Shaq Lawson,
that one's tough. Like I can't.
Cleveland Farrell. I mean,
Daquan Bowers. Like I can't. You just
Daquan Bowers is close. Cleveland Farrell's close out on the edge. I mean, not the greatest success in the league, but again, who cares?
Yeah.
Based off of what they did at Clemson, I mean, they were elite. So, Kirkland,
but I'm just imagine Vic Beasley and Gaines Adams coming off the edge on the same defensive line,
bro,
dude,
with those two D tackles. Hey, we just figured out how to fix our run defense.
Yeah, exactly.
We just got to bring all those dudes back in their prime.
Matt Falls mentions Jim Stuck. That's a great pull. Patrick Sapp. Yeah, like, dude, I can't. Yeah, that one's tough.
Yeah, that'd be a fun one to do one day. Is like an all Clemson defense. Pick your best or your favorite at every position.
Yeah, DJ Reader, dude. Yeah, I mean that's tough. Austin Bryant, like there's Kevin Dodd. Like there's too many.
There's too many names. The more names come out, you're like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about him.
I don't know within the last few years, but yeah, we'll have to do like an all-time Clemson defensive team. That certainly won't be controversial because there's a lot to pick.
Yeah, everybody will agree with it for sure. Yeah. You can't go wrong,
when I was picking my defensive line, I had to pick the right combination of talent and production, and I think that's the group. That would be terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an offensive coordinator and those are the first four, those are the four down linemen lining up against you. About to be a long day. About to look like that Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl.
Dude. You said that's why I love this segment, because we can just chop it up about that, all-time defensive line. Man, we could get linebackers would take a long time for it, because I saw somebody mention Levon Kirkland. Like, but if we went to linebackers, that would be a long list as well. Man, even corner. Like, I think I know who I would start at corner. I feel pretty like if I can pick two corners.
Yeah,
I think I kind of know. Kind of. I don't know. I might actually have a new. That one's tough, actually. Now, the more I think about it, I think Donnell Wolford would be one of my spots. But I'm not 100% confident in that. And honestly, Nate Wiggins, that might be I don't know if that's controversial or not, but honestly, Nate Wiggins is probably between him and Mackenzie Alexander, those are probably my favorite defensive backs, like in general, that have played at Clemson. So, like, that one's tough.
Definitely some good ones.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's and I was scared to say Wiggins because maybe recency bias, but
I mean, I get it, but
Nate was spectacular.
He did what he did, Like, I get it, he's a recent player, but that don't mean he can't be, amongst the best that have ever played for Clemson.
Yeah. But yeah, that might be something fun we can do.
Yeah, maybe that's we can stretch that out for a couple segments there. Just doing Yeah, like David Wood says, map it out over a few weeks by position. Yeah, that's probably something we can do.
Yeah, man. Ty Hill and Justin Miller. Although I mean, Justin Miller was better as he was certainly a better returner, but Ty Hill is up there for me. Yeah. Someone mentioned Cordray Tankersley. Yeah, he doesn't get enough love from Clemson fans. He was special. Of course, AJ Terrell. I loved Andrew Booth.
Andrew Booth, yeah. Oh man, he was a good one. Yeah.
And corner would be a fun one too. But yeah, we'll say yeah, maybe that's something we'll do because that could be fun.
Oh yeah, Stephon Anthony. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great linebacker.
Mm-hmm. Ben Boulware, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a whole conversation about. I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is up there. I mean, he was All-American.
Yeah. No. Well, yeah. No, I think he's definitely up there.
Of course, Isaiah Simmons. Okay, yeah. Let's stop.
You just keep going.
Keith Adams, yeah, like dude. Okay, yeah. All right, let's stop. Like we could just like. It reminds me of that meme, like just what guys do on a random Saturday, just naming random players.
Naming random players, yeah.
And
then arguing about who was better.
Honestly, both Simmons, Isaiah Simmons and Anthony Simmons are up there. Dorian O'Daniel, dude.
Got some dudes, man.
Yeah, man. Dude, good Lord. All right. I think that's a good place to end this off.
Yeah.
We could be here all night if we start just listening.
Yeah, if we start going down this rabbit trail, and then we'll get on the offensive side of the ball, and it'll be a whole thing. We'll have to turn it into a segment where we talk about our all-time favorites in the positions, or all-time greats, whatever, at each position.
All right. Yep, I think that'll do it for us.
Yeah, I think we're going to end it there, guys. I'm getting distracted by reading the chat. I'm seeing.
Yeah, I know. Now everybody's just naming. I just saw somebody. Benny. Now we're talking about tight ends. Benny Cunningham.
We're talking about tight ends. Yeah, Dwayne Allen. Just opening up a whole can of worms. All right, we're going to get out of here, guys. It's been another great show. Thank you guys for staying tuned and chopping it up with us in the comment section at the end of the show. Definitely our favorite part of the show is that. So I'd love the little conversations we get into. So 30 people in the live chat right now. If you haven't already, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We do the All In Show every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football. Another great one in the books, guys. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Till then, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.